morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well.
Good, good, good. It is now December.
Yes.
Yes.
And we are continuing on with our end of year holiday themed
Yes.
recordings. And
That explains why we're dressed this way.
yes, trying to be a little bit
Happen to watch
festive.
it. Happen to watch this in after December. Remember that we did this in December.
Yes, yes. Because today's topic is actually big deals in December.
Yes, yes, and that's a little different than we talk about. We'll have like car dealerships or department stores or something like that have big deals.
This is the time of year that you start to see, zero down financing on that new car for your loved one, and
yes,
seeing commercials with big red bow on that pickup truck.
yes, that's I don't think my wife would appreciate that, but I'll never find out.
Maybe some Macy's sales.
That would probably do it. Yes.
But those are not the deals we're talking about.
No.
So what deals are we talking
We're
about?
we're talking about largely business deals, and talking about the big transactions that come across business, not the ordinary operation of business, but for example, when somebody decides to sell a business or to bring on a new partner or to acquire some real estate or sell some real estate for the business, perhaps buying some equipment, some major transaction that changes the nature of the business, or maybe starts a new business, ends a business by selling its assets. Those kind of big transactional deals, mergers, acquisitions, all of which.
Why would that matter in December?
Well, these happen all the time. I mean, they can happen at any time of the year.
Right.
There's no law that says you can't, do a big transaction in July. But given that for a lot of reasons, we have this 1 year cycle, a calendar year that ends in December, and tax returns in at least the United States, some other countries do it a little differently, where you account for things and pay taxes on things based on what happens in December, which means that big transactions, you may want them to happen in December. You may want to wait until January in the process, and there is a thought process. And sometimes you get a different opinion between the buyer and the seller. Somebody wants to buy, particularly a piece of equipment from somebody, like a large piece or set of used equipment that a seller has. The seller may want to sell in January because the taxes they pay or the depreciation recapture they have to pay want to fall into the subsequent year. The buyer may want to get it in December, so he can start taking deductions, and particularly in an environment we have now where we get to deduct a hefty portion of the purchase of equipment, tangible personal property used in their business. So sometimes they want to happen in December. Also, you get some people that have budgets, and they're given a budget to be able to acquire things within a calendar year. And sometimes they've used up their budget and they got to wait, and sometimes they need to spend that budget because it's use it or lose it. Right. And so December it becomes a big transaction. In addition to being, at least at the retail level and many other businesses, the sort of peak season for operations, as well as that. So there's a lot of economic transactions, business transactions, taxable transactions that occur in December. So we want to be able to focus on what we need to do for that. And that's kind of the topic of that. We're going to have a transaction. It's going to involve accountants figuring out, what the amounts are. It's going to be lawyers drafting up papers, bankers funding transaction, business people. Usually they have a young business person coming in and acquiring a business, an old one getting ready to retire. All of which are things that happen around these transactions. A lot of times happen around December.
So I've actually got a question. This came up we've got a client we've been working on with her to try to take her required minimum distribution for the year, and that has to be done by December 31st. Another end of year transaction.
Right.
We were talking logistics though, and because you mentioned banks have to be, are involved too.
Yeah.
There are banking holidays and there are weekends. How do, like, coming up in December with the holidays and weekends, and how does that stuff come into play with timing?
Well, that becomes important because while it's sometimes most important to get a deal done by the end of December, in a functional world that we live in, it can be hard to find somebody to do that work if you've got a lot of things to do.
I mean, like, as the lawyers, we would be able to stay. Not that we want to, but we would, and you have before been in the office, at 11:59 on December 31st, signing.
Sitting there signing and emailing stuff to New Zealand one year. And the fact that was in New Zealand, but also in New Zealand, Australia, and Malaysia, trying to do an international deal that had to get done by December 31st.
Yeah.
And it's
and one of those things where you're talking about if the seller wants it to happen in January, or the buyer wants it to happen in December,
right.
It might be.
There's that, and there are some techniques which we went over in some other episodes. If anybody wants to, we can talk about at a different time. But
and that's
kind of doing that. As such, finding a buyer and seller that have different years, or can book the transaction at different times in different ways.
And the logistics of getting us to sign the documents is one thing, but what if, as I'm saying, there's some kind of institution where it's a banking institution where maybe you can hit transmit, submit on the computer system. Is it automatic, or does it need to be on a business day? Like, is that transaction going to process and post on the first business day?
And the answer is, in some cases yes, some cases no. Certainly, you and I can get together. If all it is, it's a matter of I'm handing you a stock certificate and you're signing an acknowledgement saying you got it, and that's the transaction. And it could be for a big corporation, or a significant corporation that has many millions of dollars. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the simplicity of it, I guess you have to pay me. So you give me money, I give you.
Right.
And as long as I've got a check, I can go cash it the next day. But I have that check. And we can honestly testify that we did the transaction on December 31st. However, if there is some banking transaction that has to take place, then you got to make sure in order for the deal to have been done, or for the tax deduction or the tax consequences to take place,
or for you to be able to take out your required minimum distribution, where you might have to send money into your retirement company, have them process it, fill out the form to take out the distribution, and then have that money hit your bank account by December 31st.
Yes, and that's, I guess that's, don't wait until the last minute, notion and stuff like that, and realize that even though transactions in December are probably more important to get done on time than many other months, it is harder to get it done. Typically the person doing it, the business people around, are busier in December with the holiday Christmas parties and all their client, parties they may go to.
And people taking time off to spend with family too.
Employees taking time off.
Yes.
And in the busiest month of the year where things got to get done, and they won't want to go on to see grandma.
But that's why there's so many movies where you've got, the big busy law office or business office where the, workaholic is there getting the deal done, and he's on the phone while the family's sitting at home being like, "Where's Daddy?"
Yeah, give me to it.
Because that's a real thing.
Yeah, that's so the real point of, I guess, this session is that there are big things that happen in December, and you've got to plan for them ahead of time as much as you can. You have to make sure that people that are doing things are available, and that you don't miss things because of holidays. And I mean, we in Houston don't have to deal with this, but I mean, sometimes you get snowstorms, shut cities down right when you need to do a transaction by year end, and nobody can get to work. There's 8 feet of snow.
Yeah. Well, we have had a lot of rain recently, so.
Well, we live in Houston. What can I say? You know, it was the night before Christmas and all through the house, the air conditioning was running because we live in the South.
That's a good one. Okay, well, if you've got a big deal in December, we're here for you.
All right. Yeah, maybe with legal play.
All right, thanks, Al.
Merry Christmas.